Hi, we're at the Emancipation Oak. This YouTube is called We Are the Seeds, dedicated to teaching people about Black history. Emancipation Oak is located at Hampton University and is a part of the National Geographic, the top 10 trees. So we're going to show you about Mary Peake and who she was.
Mary Smith Peake was born Mary Smith Kelsey. She was born in 1823. She was born a free woman in Norfolk, Virginia. Her father was an Englishman and her mother was a free woman of color. She could have lived her life as a free woman of color and not worried about others, but she didn't. Mary Peake held her first class under this same tree on September 17th, 1861. She started with only about a half a dozen pupils, but as days went by, her attendance started to grow. Her 5-year-old daughter was a part of her class. Her name was Daisy. Not only did she teach children, but she also taught 20 adults at night. She held night courses. The American Missionary Association, AMA, gave Miss Peake the use of a brown cottage where she worked and she also lived. So this is the very first building that happened to be on Hampton University campus. Due to the burning in Hampton, Virginia, a lot of the enslaved people crossed the boat to come to this area. There weren't any bridges, so they had to get on a boat to get to this side of the water, which is called Fort Monroe. Now, Mary Peake was still teaching secretly. She defied the Virginia law. They had a law against educating slaves and free blacks, and this was passed after the Nat Turner Rebellion in 1831. Mary Peake put her life on the line. Secretly, under this beautiful tree, she taught the enslaved how to read fluently. This was against the law, and she defied it. She lived in that house where she continued to teach until the day she died of tuberculosis. This is also the very first tree where the Emancipation Proclamation was read. This was issued by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. And under this tree, the slaves were read to them that they are now free. Also, the Emancipation Oak is designed as one of the 10 great trees of the world by the National Geographic Society. This is a National Historic Landmark. This is one of the oldest cemeteries, Black historic cemeteries in Hampton, Virginia. There's actually several of them, but this is where Mary Peake is buried. This is a new marker that was put up here. This is located on King Street. So Mary Peake's markers say, "I shall not die, but live." On the marker, I'm just going to read what the marker says. I was showing my friends the new marker in the area. If you believe in something strongly enough, would you break the law to do it? A few steps from here rest the remains of Mary Smith Kelsey Peake, who dedicated her life to teaching enslaved and free African Americans to read, even though it was illegal. Though she died at just 39, her short life affected hundreds of African Americans who benefited from her tenacious defiance of Virginia law. The daughter of a free mulatto woman and a Frenchman, Peake was born free in 1823 in Norfolk. She attended a school for African American children in Alexandria, where she acquired a good English education before law made it illegal for African Americans to assemble for the purpose of education. Peake had been secretly teaching in Hampton many years before the Civil War. When the Union Army arrived in 1861, word spread about her talents and passion for teaching. Peake taught under the Emancipation Oak on the campus of present-day Hampton University. She taught 50 children at a time in a cottage near the abandoned Chesapeake Baptist Female Seminary. She became the first African American teacher for the American Missionary Association. Peake contracted tuberculosis and died in February 1862. A procession of her pupils accompanied her coffin to this spot, where she was buried beneath an oak tree. Psalm 118:17 was read at her funeral. I shall not die, but live. A fitting selection for a deeply religious woman, but also a memorial to a teacher whose legacy outlives her own short years. This area was once full of weeds. At one point, I couldn't get to this area. The Barrett Peake Foundation, founded by Dr. Kalita Fairfax, professor of Norfolk State University, has helped preserve this area for Black history. So there has been many volunteers that has helped clear the way just so that we can witness history present day. So right now, I was cleaning off a grave. I found one as my foot kicked it up. So there's a lot of graves here in this area. This is the Elmerton Cemetery. So there's many uncovered graves that they're still uncovering, but they have worked tremendously for us to get through this far. So this is the area where the Peakes are buried. This entire area, the weeds has been cut down. It is now accessible. So we're at the gates of the Peakes. As the weeds have been cleared and chopped down, now it's easy accessible for many people to come to honor her and her family. Now, the tombstone has a lot of erosion on there, but this is what it looked like in 1968. The first teacher of the Fortress Monroe is what it says. This is what it looks like now. You can't really see the words, but in 1968, it was readable. As you can see, people have left offerings for her. There's colorful rocks, candles. Her husband is buried right next to her. His tombstone is slightly chopped, but this is the Peake's grave. I'm not sure who Mary Elizabeth Melvin is, but her husband is right next to her. So his tomb is like right there on the right. And this is Sarah Peake Green. I'm not sure who she is. But many people come here to leave offerings. At different times, you will see different type of offerings just to honor her.
It's just so sad that they just want to cover all this up. Like,
I feel like I found my two
people underneath there still, like, and the uncoverings, like, it's crazy.
This is a lot, but look, guys, like a lot of this has been cleared out, so this is awesome because before you couldn't see any right here where we are. It was just trees. You couldn't see the house.
But even over there, like I'm seeing a stone over there, and that still needs to be cleared out over there.
Wow. Hopefully they can have it replaced with there.
Nearby Mary Smith Peake grave, there's a marker that also speaks about her life and what she's done for the African American people. Thank you, Mary Peake.